We have Todd Reid from DK Rentals, a property management company, to speak with us about property management in the face of COVID. Hi, Todd. How are you?
I'm doing great today. How are you, Andre and Anne-Marie?
Doing great. Glad to have you.
It's an honor to be here with you guys. Appreciate you having invited me over.
In here, we're excited to have you. So Todd, tell us about your background and how it all started for DK Rentals.
Yeah, so I was working in corporate America, and my background, I'm actually an industrial engineer by degree, and got into some IT fields as well. And about 25 years ago, I bought my first couple rental properties. And the property manager was so terrible that I fired them after a few months and decided to start managing my own properties. So that's kind of how I, put my toe into the water, was just managing my own. And then over the years, gradually each year when I got a bonus from my work, I'd go out and try to buy another property and another property, and realized I really enjoy real estate. But I didn't know how to take that leap of leaving corporate America with a couple babies at home and start my own business. And that's when we ran into Homevestors, which people may know them as the We Buy Ugly Houses people. They were like the first ones that had those big billboards. And actually bought a couple houses from those folks and got some more information on who they were, and found out that they was a franchise. And I was like, light bulb went off. I said, wow, this is the way that I can leave corporate America, start my own business, and do something in real estate. And that's kind of how we made the jump from corporate into real estate and have our own business. And then part of our business model that we did with our franchise at Homevestors is I took some of my relationships from my IT consulting days. And these are kind of C-level executives and that were looking to build rental portfolios. So what we did was we provide a turnkey solution where we would set them up with, get them set up with construction loans with local banks. And then we'd find a property for them, sell it to them, rehab the property and get it rent ready, refinance the property into conventional money, which would then pay off that construction loan. And then the last component of that was the property management, because they wanted turnkey. They didn't want to have to do anything.
God, that's brilliant.
Well, it was, it was brilliant, except we were lousy property managers. So we were really good at finding houses. We were really good at rehabbing houses. We were
doing the burr. Yeah. That was great.
We're terrible property managers.
Uh-huh.
And then, 2008, 2009 came along, and all of a sudden, banks stopped lending money, and that kind of put a halt to the whole machine. And all that, we literally woke up one day and all that was left was the property management. And my wife and I looked at each other and I said, well, we have two options here. I go back to corporate America, which, the thought of that was horrific. Or we figured out how to be good property managers and make money on it. And that was really, the Phoenix, coming out of the ashes. It was DK Rentals coming out of that whole real estate crash. And that's how we formed our property management business.
Also,
and that was how many years ago, Todd?
So DK now will be 13 years old in August.
Wow, 13 years.
Yes.
And how many properties are you managing right now? If you could give us a.
Yeah, we're right at about 235 doors. So all over, we cover all of Metro Atlanta.
Do you have a staff now?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. So we've got. We have a property manager, and then we have a leasing agent. So her full-time job is to rent our vacant properties. We have an assistant to our leasing agent, and then we have a business development manager as well, whose job is to find landlords with rental properties and bring them on board to manage. But we do a lot of outsourcing, and which is becoming more and more prevalent in our industry. So all of our back office, bookkeeping, accounts payable, all of that is outsourced. And we also have a call center in Dallas that answers all of our maintenance calls. So we're not answering the phone 11 o'clock on a Saturday night when there's a burst pipe. We have an answering service that actually they're much more than answering service, because they actually it's called the maintenance contact center. So they take the call, contact a contractor, create a work order. So again, it's not just someone, saying, give me your name and phone number and I'll have someone call you back. So there's a real value add there.
That's great.
And then we also have another call center out of the Philippines that we use on the other side when we're leasing properties. It's very, very frustrating when someone's driving on a weekend looking for rental property. They see a sign, they call the number on the sign. No one ever answers, and usually the voicemail is full. So with that call center, they always get a live person on the phone 24/7, and they have information on the property. They know our screening process, so they can usually answer 90 to 95% of the questions that someone will have when they call about a vacant property.
That's fantastic. That's a great business model. I mean, that obviously you've put a lot of thought into this, and it's bigger than I imagined it was. So I'm intrigued. And what kind of properties are you focusing on? I mean, it's residential, right?
That's correct. Yeah, we don't do any commercial. Commercial is a very, very different animal. And so we focus on what we know, which is residential. And we currently don't do any multifamily properties, but hopefully that's going to change next week. We're real close to signing a deal to manage a small apartment complex up in Canton. And that'll be our first foray into multifamily. And to be honest with you, multifamily is actually easier, right? And so if you have a 20-unit multifamily, all 20 of those are on the same piece of property versus 20 houses that are spread all over Atlanta.
Exactly.
So yeah.
So is that your number 20? What do you mean by multifamily? Like what level?
When we say small, usually what differentiates is whether you have to have on-site. Right. So if you have something that's 150, 200 doors, you're going to have on-site management. Correct. So that's kind of a whole nother level, is when you require that on-site. So that's something we would consider doing if it's the right property, but we don't have experience doing that at this point.
Excellent. So Todd, tell us about your application process for a renter and also the landlord side. Yeah.
Well, our process as far as how the landlord participates in the screening of tenants. Is that your question?
Yes.
Yeah. So we make it, what we do with our landlords is we upfront, before we even sign a property management agreement, is we let them know what our screening criteria is. And then if an owner says, well, am I going to be given an opportunity to decide who's going to go into my house? We say absolutely no. And there's really good reasons for that. And that's the biggest reason. Well, there's two very good reasons for that. One is fair housing. The federal laws around fair housing are very, very strict. And so a owner of a property might break the law without even knowing that they're breaking the law, because they're not familiar with fair housing. So there are a lot of protected classes. You have to be very careful what you can and what you cannot say when you're screening tenants. And so I don't want to risk losing my license, or maybe not losing my license, having to go and defend a fair housing violation lawsuit because of what an owner said or what a decision that they made. So so that's why we just educate them what our screening process is. And we say, if we find someone that fits within that box, the phone call they're going to get from us is, congratulations, we just rented your house. So that's what we tell our owners. And quite honestly, there are some owners that said, I'm not going to let someone walk into my house because I'm very good intuition. And I was like, intuition is what gets you in trouble, because what you call intuition, someone else calls discrimination. So we're very factual based. And when we do our screening, and someone who's renting a $700 a month house goes through the exact same process as someone that's going through a $7,000 a month house. And that process is, we're looking for income to be 3 times the rental amount. We're doing we're looking at reviewing their credit report, and I don't care what their credit score is. We want to look at the details of that report. If someone, pays their auto loan every month, has no judgments or collections that are rent related, pay their credit card every month. They might have a 550 credit score because of some big medical bills they have or some education loans that they're struggling paying. But if they pay all their day-to-day life issues, that's what I'm more concerned about. So that's why I don't look at credit score. We're going to contact the current landlord and do a verification of rent. We're going to do a nationwide criminal background check. And we also do a social media search. And we do that for a couple of reasons. I mean, as you know, Andre, especially being the business you're in, people put stupid things out there. And so, you know, we're going to Google their name and find out what comes up. And one of the things we're looking at is, does the photo match their photo ID? There's so many people out there that are with identity ID theft that we want to see if those photos match up. So those are the steps that we go through screening every single applicant. And when we say an applicant, that means everyone 18 years and older. So if there's a husband and a wife and they've got a 19-year-old son, we're going to do 3 full applications and screen all 3 of them completely.
So you're very thorough. That's very thorough. So the parallel question is, how do you screen for properties, the property owners? Do you do a similar process?
Yeah, well, that's a great question, Anne-Marie, and we're actually talking amongst my team is that maybe we need to do a better job of screening who we bring on board, because one of the challenges that we've had, quite honestly, is we bring on properties to manage, and they're not rent ready, which that's okay when we bring them on board. But what we're finding is a lot of these owners don't have any money to make them rent ready. And so what they want to do is they want us to try to rent a subpar product. And when you put a subpar rental property out on the market, all you attract are subpar tenants.
That's right. Yeah, exactly.
So that's something that I'm quite honestly, we need to do a better job is screening what customers we bring on board. Now, on the other side, we are getting better at firing customers, right? So if we have someone that is a slumlord that's refusing to do repairs, then we just say, you know what, that's okay, but that's just not who DK Rentals is. You know, it's DK Rental is the sign in the front of the yard. It's DK Rentals who's representing you. And we can't afford to tarnish our relationship because, you know, again, Andre, as you know, you do that, you don't make repairs. What does the tenant do? The first thing they do is blast you all over the internet and give you 1-star reviews. And that, you know, they never do that to the landlord who owns the property, who refuses to do it's always the property manager. So,
right. Yeah, your reputation is everything. No, it's absolutely you're right.
Absolutely.
Definitely. So Todd, do you prepare and also renew the lease for these property managers?
Yes. So we're turnkey. So we do everything for the owner. A lot of our owners are overseas. We literally have had clients from every single continent in the planet, and so they rely on us to take care of absolutely everything for them, right from doing repairs, making the house rent ready, marketing the property, renting it, lease signing, move-in inspections, collecting rent, continued all the communication with the tenant, doing lease renewals, rent increases, and then when the tenant does finally move out, do the move-out inspection and do that move-out reconciliation, to see how much of the security deposit the tenant gets back.
So how has COVID impacted this? I mean, a lot of that is hands-on, what you're talking about, how are you dealing with this situation now?
Yeah, well, fortunately, we've done a lot of, we've invested a lot in our business over the last few years to where we are to be completely paperless. We stopped doing lease signings in person probably over 2 years ago. So that's all done electronically. When someone completes an application and they're approved, they get an email with a link to the lease. They review the lease. They sign it electronically. They pay their holding fee electronically. So most tenants, when they move in, we have never seen them at all. And so it's a much better flow. But again, even from a fair housing perspective, it's one less thing that you can be accused of is that you saw someone and that's why you discriminated against them. So, and you may hear that as a common theme. And the reason why it's so important is to defend a fair housing violation. If you're innocent, it costs you a minimum of $10,000 in attorney fees, and that's if you're innocent. So we have to be so super careful as professional property managers to make sure that we're not only that we're not violating fair housing, but that people can't even think that we might be violating it. So anyway, back to your question. So the lease signing process is already done, where we're not sitting down with anyone. But we also invested in both hardware and software a couple years ago that allows us to do self showings. So everyone's scrambling right now to try to do this. We've already had this in place. So a tenant, prospective tenant, goes out perhaps on Zillow or Trulia, sees a rental property, clicks on a button, says I'm interested. That just creates an email which goes into someone's inbox. We have software that captures that request, automatically responds, says yes, the property is still available, does some light screening automatically. They upload their photo ID, they get a calendar, they schedule their appointment. So they could be 11 o'clock at night while they're watching TV, scheduling their showing for 9 o'clock the next morning, and then an hour before that showing, they get a text asking them if they're still going. If they say yes, then they get a temporary code, because we have smart lock boxes. And so that temporary code works for 60 minutes where they can let themselves in. They look at the property, they get out, and then they get another text that says, do you like the property? You can give some feedback, and there's a link right there to complete the application. So literally, someone could see the property online, set up a viewing, view the property, and come out of the property, do an application, and they still haven't had to wait for someone to return a phone call, wait for someone to return an email.
Wow, that's awesome. So now do you have to go back? Does somebody go in and clean? I mean, is there anything else that you have to do because of COVID, or do you just assume an hour later the virus is dissipated? Or 2 days?
Yeah, because we're not doing this for houses that are occupied, right? This is, I should be clear on that. These are vacant properties. So yeah, we're kind of making the assumption that the person is being careful when they go in there. It's not a high volume. It's just 1 or 2 people going in at a time. It's very different if it's an occupied property, right? Then we are talking about being wearing a mask. We ask the tenants to turn on all the lights before so we don't have to touch any light switches. Very similar to what realtors are doing when they're showing a house for sale.
Yeah.
Right, and you kind of flowed into my other question about maintenance in the face of COVID and repairs, because I know you must have a lot of tenants calling you. We have this going out, and how do you approach it right now? I know you mentioned masks. What else do you do to safeguard?
Yeah, well, one thing in general we're postponing maintenance that's a kind of more preventive maintenance for typically in the spring. We're going out and doing a lot of servicing on our HVAC units before it gets hot.
So you're being proactive then.
I'm sorry?
You're being proactive then. No,
so typically that's what we do every spring. We're not doing that this spring. Again, because that's just that's the time we don't. It's not critical that a technician go inside the house to do for that. So we were like, you know what? Let's just avoid that issue. So we're just not going to do preventive maintenance this spring. So we're really looking at if it's emergency repair, then we work with the tenant. We're always very respectful of the tenant and their situation. And so we say, okay, we have this issue. You need the repair to be done. But on the other hand, we have to be very sensitive, to COVID-19, and so we'll work very closely with them. Our technicians will wear masks and gloves, and again, they're coordinating with the tenant at a time that the tenant feels is safe for them to enter the house. So it's just being very sensitive, being very respectful, and then postponing repairs that are not critical.
So you may have already, I think you've kind of already distinguished yourself, but how do you see your company as being different from other property management companies?
Yeah, so we're definitely just as much a technology company as we are a service organization. And we just, interestingly enough, I had a conversation with a gentleman a couple days ago who has 9 properties that's considering moving over to us. And then he was concerned. He says, well, don't you lose the human touch by the fact that all your tenants are paying online? They're not walking in with a wad of cash or walking with checks. How can you still, have a good positive relationship with your tenants? And I said, well, actually, because of all our automation in place and all our technology in place, our staff is not spending the whole time just taking phone call after phone call after phone call after phone call, answering the same question over and over and over again. What they're able to do is more value added. So when there really is a issue, a tenant has an issue that we need to have a conversation about, we're now much more available to them, where before, the phone was just constantly ringing all day long. So it actually allows us to give better customer service and a more of a personal touch than before, when we're just focused on, just trying to kind of process the rent payments or process the statements, and I mean, the bad old days when we were printing out the statements and mailing them out. And so technology has really helped. I mean, even from the owner's perspective, we have everything out on the owner portal. All of their statements, all of their invoices, all of their inspections, photos are done of all the work that's completed. So 90% of the phone calls we used to get from owners don't come in anymore because they have access to the information themselves right online.
All the reports are right there.
Everything's there. Everything's out on the cloud. Especially, we went through some times we had some really bad storms, everything. If our office burned down, we literally would be up and running tomorrow without an issue, because there are no paper files anymore.
Yeah, you've totally embraced technology.
Everything's out on the cloud. Everything's out on the cloud.
So if something goes, south with a tenant and there's an eviction, how do you handle that? Do you handle that?
Yeah, absolutely. Again, this is kind of the industrial engineer in me. Everything is business process driven. So, rents are due based upon the lease. They're due on the 1st or the 5th of the month. And so on the 6th of the month, every month, late letters go out. Again, that's just done electronically through our software. And then from the 6th to the 13th, we're calling, emailing, texting to try to talk to our tenants, find out where the rent is. And then the week of the 13th, we're filing evictions. And that's as fast as legally possible. In the state of Georgia, you have to give tenants at least 7 days from the time you give them a late letter before you file. So there is no conversations, again, even with our owners. We let our owners know up front, this is our business process. So if a tenant doesn't pay, we're not going to call you and ask permission. Can we please file for eviction? And there's a good reason. We're not trying to be arrogant about it, but that's the best practice is to do that, because when you file for eviction, that's just the start of the process. The tenant has plenty of time to make their payment of rent, even after you file. So, but what you're doing is you're keeping pressure on the tenant, letting them know that their first payment, their first check that they write each month, or that they pay online each month, goes to pay for their housing. And so we're filing, but we're still trying to communicate with them, still trying to get payment. Once they make payment, now they're going to have to pay the court fees. Then we're going to cancel that eviction. But yeah, we absolutely handle all that for our owners. So what we do is, to communicate with our owners, is we have another policy that an owner will never receive a statement, and that's the first time they're hearing about the fact that the tenant didn't pay their rent. Mm-hmm. So if we wrap up our months on the 15th, so after a few days before then, if the tenant has not paid, we're going to make sure we reach out to our owners, let them know tenant hasn't paid. This is a situation, they've gone dark on us. They're not communicating at all, or we've talked to them and they promise they're going to get us on the 20th, or whatever the status is. We'll make sure that owner is never surprised when they receive their statement.
And Todd, we're talking about eviction, right? But
yeah.
I know in some states, right, the law has changed, or there is some leeway in tenants staying in the property without paying their rent. Is that different here in Georgia? What are the changes here?
There's some freezes.
What are the legal
Yeah, actually the thing is that what's very complicated about that is that you have municipalities have one law, you have counties have other laws, states have other laws, and federals have other laws that have all changed. So keeping up with that is quite an effort. So for example, the magistrate court in Georgia is shut down. So that means that you cannot actually evict anyone because you can't go to court. Okay. However,
interesting.
a lot of the counties will still allow you to file for eviction. So you can file, but that's all. You just file and that ends right there. But then there's another federal law that came out that says that if you have a mortgage that is federally backed, that means your Fannie, Freddie, Sally, any of those mortgages, you are not allowed to charge late fees. So now the onus on us as property managers, is to find out from our owners, do you have a loan and what kind of loan do you have? Because that's not information we normally have, but that determines whether you can charge late fees or not. So it's really crazy trying to just keep up with all the laws and regulations as they're changing in today's environment. But then again, that's the value add of a property management company.
I was just going to say that makes your service really important now.
Absolutely. Yeah. Someone managing themselves, to keep up with all this would be very, very difficult. And so we have a phenomenal trade organization called NARPM, the National Association of Residential Property Managers. And we have a listserv here in Atlanta. We have about probably 100 or 150 different property management companies here in Atlanta that are members. And we communicate all the time in that listserv. How do you handle this situation? This came up. This is what I heard. Hey, the law just changed here. Did you see this article in the AJC? About, and so we really do. It's very much a collaborative effort, supporting each other to make sure that we understand the regulations, how they change and how they're being enforced.
And Todd, we talk about the COVID situation. The world is reeling from this pandemic. So are you seeing an uptick in renting, or what's the market like now?
Yeah, it's I've been an absolutely terrible prognosticator of rent collections. I thought that that April would just be terrible. No one would be paying their rent. Because when you look at the news, all you see are all these people saying, we're going on rent strike. No one pay their rent. It's our right not to pay. They never said anything about
way up too. Unemployment is what, 30%?
Right. So I thought that April was going to be really tough. It wound up that it wasn't. We had a great month as far as rent collections, and so I was then, okay, well, it hasn't got through the system yet. May is going to be really, really bad, and it wound up that well over 90% of our tenants paid all the rent on time in full, and then we only had 2 tenants that didn't pay the rent. And we had 8 tenants that are on payment plans. So was absolutely astounded at how responsible tenants have been, and that they've been continuing to have the ability to pay their rent. And then NARPM did a survey across the country, and that's pretty much what most people reported back, is that now again, we're in the single family residential space. Multifamily is different. Okay, so their collection rates have definitely been lower, but in the single family space, across the board, most tenants are still paying their rent.
Go ahead.
Sorry, Andre. That might be a testimony to your screening process.
That helps for sure, and why we're seeing those high numbers. But again, the market in general is saying that because from the NARPM report. So it's a combination of both. We were definitely on the higher end. But in general, I think a lot of us are very surprised that how well the tenants have paid in the single family market.
Or it could just be because people are getting unemployment. They're getting that money and they can still pay rent and keep
right.
Them home. That could be a factor.
Yeah, that could be. That's a good point, Andre. Is that people at least do have ability to access to some cash, and they realize how important their dwelling is. the fear that we had was that because we couldn't evict anyone, that people would take advantage of that. That was our fear, because and that hasn't happened. People have been responsible in paying their rent, even though at the end of the day, we really have absolutely no stick right now. If you don't pay your rent, you just sit there for free, because I can't do anything about it.
Yeah.
But so hats off to our tenants. So, but on the flip side, I think what's real important to bring up is the rental market. That is the side where we're actually renting our vacant properties is absolutely red hot right now. It is, which even that's is amazing to me.
Yeah, that's surprising. I wouldn't expect that.
Surprising. We have, in the 20-some years I've been in this business, I've never been in a market that's as hot right now as it is.
Are you talking locally or?
I'm talking about the DK Rentals properties that are vacant. Right now we have about 12 vacant properties that we're marketing, and we are in the processing 61 applications for those 12 properties.
Whoa!
Wow.
It is it's amazing, and my guess is the fact that there are people who are out there that were thinking about buying, and now there's fear, uncertainty, and doubt in the market. So they're like, I don't want to commit to a big asset like that right now. I'm going to rent for another year.
Well, there's also a lack of inventory right now too.
Yes.
A lot of people aren't willing to sell.
That's very true.
Yeah, so
You're exactly right, Amy.
So
Todd, I know you're super experienced and in the market. How do you see this market for the next 5 years? What's your projection on it? You think it's going to continue to be hot, or there's going to be?
I mean, if we're talking specifically about the Atlanta metro area, I'm very bullish on Atlanta. The more I travel and look at real estate in other cities, it makes me appreciate how affordable our real estate is and how fortunate we are. And I see more and more industries moving to Atlanta and good paying jobs. And so I think the rental market in Atlanta is going to continue to be very strong. We didn't have any crazy run up in rents like you saw in the Bay Area, where no one could even afford anything anymore. So, but I think Atlanta, there's a reason why investors all around the world are buying rental property in Atlanta. And it's because it's one of the few places where you have can get some decent cap rates on your investment. And it's just still relatively affordable. So yeah, I'm pretty positive for the rental market.
Right. And Todd, as well as I do, marketing is super important for sustainability of any business. How do you market, and how has that changed during this time? What do you market?
As far as what we haven't changed anything in this time, and I think that's we decided that even though things are getting all tougher, that might present some opportunity. So where other property management companies might be very distracted right now, we want to keep our eye on the ball. So we have some very aggressive growth plans, and so we're going full steam ahead with our marketing plans, and we're not cutting back at all on our marketing budgets. And what we anticipate that we actually might get more bang for our buck on our marketing than we were in the past. But some of our both networking is a big part of what we do is with marketing. So it's about just having DK Rentals be top of mind with the more and more people. We spend a lot of time with real estate agents. We feel that the real estate market on the sales side is going to slow down. And so when that means more people are at least going to look at the option to rent instead of sell. So again, when a realtor has a client that decides to rent, we want them to be thinking about DK Rentals, and we want that realtor to know that we're going to protect them. At the end of the day, when that person decides to sell, we're going to make sure that person that gave us the referral gets that listing.
Excellent. I know you have a really impressive outreach program going on in Colombia. Could you tell us more about that?
Absolutely, Andre. Thanks for asking. We have a clothing ministry that we do in Colombia, South America. And what we do is we take clothes that good quality used clothes that are donated to us from friends and family, and we ship them down to Colombia, and then we make sure they get distributed to people in need. So we have some great partners that we work very closely with down there to make sure that nothing's stolen, make sure that people aren't reselling them, and that they get to people that could really use these clothes. And so we have a partner who's up in the mountains. He's actually the mayor of a town where we have a little cabin, and so he makes sure that the warm clothes are sent to those folks, get to those folks, and then we send summer clothes down to the coast of Colombia in the Cartagena area, in some of the slums behind Cartagena. And there we have another good partner as well that gets those clothes out. Especially what we're seeing now, the situation is very, very difficult because there's a lot of Venezuelan refugees that have moved into Colombia, and these people literally have walked across the border into Colombia with nothing but the shirt on their back. And so the organization and one of the organizations does a lunch. They feed children lunch every single day. And then we're able to come in and provide some clothing to these children and their parents as well.
That's awesome. I was going to ask you what if it was all ages and sizes and all of that. So
yes, we do send all ages and sizes. In general, Colombians are a little smaller than we are, but the one it's surprisingly to me is that we're usually short on children's clothes, and I would think that kids grow out of their clothes and we'd just get tons of that. But we're always looking, especially looking for more children's clothes. But we'll take whatever we can. We also do send some medical devices that typically what we send are crutches, walkers, wheelchairs, those sort of things that and we have a great program that we've established. It's a very formal checkout. It's kind of like going to the library, except you have to, it's notarized. It notifies, we put a stamp on there that you're borrowing this walker and you're going to return it, after you're done with it. So they're great stewards of everything we send down there. And they always send us photos and videos. So that way that people that have donated to us can see where these clothes are going. And a really quick story, we had a friend of ours that had donated some clothes to us, and then she went down with us down to Colombia. And while she was down there, she saw someone wearing her husband's shirt that they had donated. So that was kind of, she started crying when she saw that.
That's great.
So
is this on your website? Can people contact you or connect with you there if they want to donate?
That's not yet. There's a little bit on our DK Rentals website. We're actually working a project to do a little more of that, to do and do on the Facebook as well, so we can have a place to put all these photos and videos. But we did get ourselves set up as a 501c3 at the beginning of this year, so we are an official charity. So people can take tax write-offs, or if they'd like to help donate in the shipping costs, which are quite expensive.
Right. I was going to ask you, how do you manage wheelchairs and all of that?
Yeah. Expensive.
It's all from here to there. You're not doing anything locally, are you, in Colombia?
No, we're not. It's all of it's going down to Colombia.
And Todd, if our listeners want to come and donate right now or today, where do they go, or what's the easiest way to do it?
Yeah, the best way is really just to contact me directly. They could text me on my cell phone, which is 678-296-8948. They could call me or text me, and we can make an arrangement. Either I could pick it up, it could just be in a plastic bag, or if they'd prefer, they could drop it off at my house, and I'll give them my address, and they could just drop the bags with the clothes off. All we ask is please don't give us dirty clothes, and if the things are holey or worn out. It's expensive to ship, so we really don't want to ship clothes that are ragged. So these are we want clothes that are in condition that you'd be proud to give away for someone to receive.
Perfect. And Todd, I know we're running, but you never mentioned your website for DK Rentals. How can people find you online?
Well, that's real easy. That's why that's our name of our company is our website, dkrentals.net. So,
Perfect.
D as in David, K as in kite, RENTALS.net, NET. And again, my number is 678-296-8948. And again, the tenancy laws are very complicated and changing. So if anyone just needs to use this as a resource, could be even a tenant, that's wondering what their rights are, what they can do, or landlords, we're welcome to reach out to us.
Yeah, it's definitely a situation where what you don't even know what you don't know. So
Exactly.
You need somebody who does know. And it sounds like your company is right on top of everything. Thank you so much for talking to us today.
Oh, it's been a real blessing for me to spend this time with you guys. I really appreciate it.